Oh, there's that delay. You forget the delay.
Hi, everybody.
Hey, everybody.
I'm Jenny.
I'm Paul.
And we're with the Go Box Art Crate.
That's who we are.
That's who we are, and we are coming to you tonight with Paul's painting of the month.
Yeah.
Which is, what is it called?
I forgot. Is it called Twilight Woods? That's
yes.
what it's called.
I usually end up naming it for him.
Yep, she names it for me.
Like, that looks like a scene from Twilight. No, just kidding. I just thought it looked like it was Twilight, twinkly Twilight.
Something like that.
So we're a subscription box, and we do 2 projects a month that are unique. This month we got 2 or 3 projects all together. You got my snowman and fox, which we taught last week, and now we're doing Paul's the last one on the list. So this is probably our last video for December, unless we can sneak something else in for a side project. But I think I don't have anything else other than let's get started.
Yeah, let's go ahead and zoom in and we'll take a look at the finished painting real quick. There's the blank one. That's where we're starting, and here's where we're going.
Yeah.
So this was a fun painting for me. I think I actually did 3 paintings.
Yeah, you tried out 3 with this canvas size. It's a completely different canvas size than what we're used to, so
yeah,
it can take a little bit to find your bearings.
Absolutely, and it's one of those things that it's people oftentimes when they first start painting, they go to the art store and they get little tiny brushes and little tiny canvases, and then they find out that painting on a small canvas really is very difficult.
Merry Christmas to you, Joanna. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks for joining us.
Yeah.
So this was a good example of that, where I'm used to using a bigger canvas where we can kind of do bigger, bolder brush strokes, and all of a sudden I'm having to do smaller stuff. So, but this is one I really enjoyed the process of. We kind of, because the canvas is small, we're able to take advantage of a little bit of wet-on-wet technique like what you see when Bob Ross paints, which is hard to do with acrylic, but because the canvas size is small, we're able to paint onto wet canvas. So, all that said,
what colors are we using?
We are using a bunch of colors. No, so
we're not using a bunch.
Using a bunch of colors. Our instructions call the top of the sheet says we're using yellow. Yellow is kind of optional. At one point in time, I had developed the painting with one of the trees with Christmas lights on it, and I just kind of thought, well, maybe let's keep it simple and take those out. But if you wanted to do that, you can use the same technique like we used on the fox painting last week by just using the back of your hand. We'll talk about it later, but it's the same technique, and if you want to do that, you can do that. So outside of that, we're really just using blue, red, white, and black. And we're going to take advantage of, again, those colors mixing on the canvas as we go. If you have any questions, ask us. There is a little delay between when you ask, when we see, and when what we say will come back to you. Outside of that, let's
Happy holidays. Let's toast.
Let's toast.
Cheers.
Let's toast to New Year and fun and new exciting things.
Cheers.
Cheers. All right. So we're going to start out this painting with our largest paintbrush. And for those of you who are subscribers and you've received your first kit, it's this 3/4 inch brush. For those of you who are just joining on your own, 3/4 inch, 1 inch brush works perfect. And we're going to start off by, excuse me, clearing my throat. Okay. Got a little frog in there. All right, there we go. I think it's gone. All right, so we're going to start off by rinsing our brush. And the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start real simple with this painting. We're actually just going to take some blue.
Which is out of the camera.
Which is out of the camera, but if I just say we're just using blue, I'm sure people understand where we're going.
We wanted to optimize the view of the canvas, the zoom in part, because it's a smaller, more detailed painting.
Yep, and we're just basically going to paint about 1 inch up from the bottom. Now this canvas is only 4 inches tall. So about 1 inch up. And I am going to paint about two brush widths high. Hi. Hello. Get it on there nice and thick. And then I'm actually going to paint all the way up to the top of the canvas. There are weird noises happening in this old building tonight. I swear I just heard something fall down in the other room.
Something did fall down in the other room.
And I don't know what it was because nobody has been in here for a few days. I'm a little bit scared.
This building is rumored to be haunted, so we've never really noticed anything except last year in December. We did a video with a whole ton of orbs floating all around.
Yeah. Well, this is like a 120-year-old ballroom. So.
Yeah,
All right.
111 years old.
111, yeah. You're right. Well, it sounds better if I say 120. So we're just going to take this color all the way to the top, and you'll find that you get little stop and start marks. Best way to get rid of those is to just very lightly drag your brush across side to side. When you get to within an inch or so, or half inch or so of the top, I'm actually just going to use some red. Not cleaning my brush at all. And we're just going to brush this in.
Oh, so we get a purple sky on the top.
Yeah, I'm always a fan, well, I should say I'm not as much of a fan of using black in skies, because realistically you never see black sky. You see dark shades of indigos and purples. And I'm just going to go ahead and work some blue into that and kind of work its way down a little bit. And a lot of brushing back and forth, because this is how we get this kind of blend to occur. I'm going with just a little bit more blue.
Joanna says she heard that.
You heard it, okay.
It was kind of loud.
It was pretty loud. It sounded to me like a canvas falling over.
Somebody wants to paint along.
So we have this little nook where we do our painting class, but just behind the camera we have it's about an 1,800 square foot ballroom. And so sound in there really echoes. We should do a tour.
Let's do a tour.
Let's do a tour sometime, and because we've got a.
We have to clean it up this week.
Yeah,
so
we've been using it for shipping and receiving, but we moved our shipping and receiving. So once you're done with that little bit, go ahead and rinse your brush off. Really give it a good scrub against the bottom of your jar. And I'm just going to go ahead and start with a little bit of fresh blue again, right along the bottom edge here. Just a little bit, not a lot. And I'm going to go ahead and mix in white now. Just start with the white right below where I left off with the blue.
So by adding the blue on just now, you're just kind of refreshing the wet paint so that you have a mixer?
Yep. And this is really this is not the foundation for our ground. What we're going to do with this is we're going to start to move it up into the blue a little bit. This is actually just our glow of the sky. My canvas is really walky. It's like really bounce rock and roll. Bop, 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 bop. Does anybody have a book of matches I can put under the corner of this here canvas?
I've got a coaster.
You got a coaster there? See? All right. We'll fix that right up. All right. It's a wonderful life. All right. So this is where we start to get into our idea of being wet on wet technique, which if you guys are familiar with Bob Ross, that's what he does. He starts everything with a foundation of wet, magic white or liquid white, whatever he calls it, and then he paints his colors into that. So we've kind of created this foundation like that. We are going to rinse our big brush.
This is so blendy for you.
I know, right?
Mm-hmm. Do you want people to paint the sides?
I would say painting the sides at the end would be better, because it's more important to get rolling with this to be the canvas still wet.
Okay.
All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of blue. I'm going to mix right up here a little tiny bit of red, because the red really is the dominant of the two colors. And I'm mixing kind of a periwinkle.
So blue and red, you didn't put, did you put white in there too?
Not yet.
Oh, how'd you get periwinkle? Oh, just a little more blue.
Yeah. And so I've just got a little bit of white added here, and it should be fairly light. It's a light, kind of periwinkle-ish, lavender, very little red. And what we're going to do is we're going to start in this bottom corner here, and we're going to work our way across, and we're going to start building the foundation for our clouds. So to do that, we're not going to draw shapes. We're just going to take our brush, and we're just going to start tapping. We're going to start right in this corner, and you can see we kind of get that nice little lavendery kind of color. I'm going to go pretty heavy along this bottom edge. Sometimes it's going to show up, sometimes it's going to blend.
These are clouds?
Yes. Well, they're the start. And what I do is as I work my way up, I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to let it be a little bit more sparse. So let little bits kind of stray a little bit away.
So they're kind of broken up at the top.
Yeah, so we're doing kind of the opposite of what we usually do, where, you know, we're obvious, a lot of times we're breaking them up more at the bottom. This time we're breaking them up more at the top. I'm actually going to use a little bit more white so you guys can see this a little better. But because the canvas is wet, it's going to mix. I'm thinking the wind's kind of blowing this way, but it's going to mix with that wet canvas, wet paint on the canvas, and bring our tones down. And I'm just tapping the brush. I'm not doing brush strokes. I'm not doing shapes and filling. I'm just tapping. And by tapping, it allows those colors to kind of mix a little bit more. I'm going to go a little higher on this left.
So I have a question when you do this.
Yeah.
A lot of times I've seen it when we're doing light painting, people get lines like this.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I will get that once in a while too. So are you using the corner of your brush?
Yeah, I kind of use the corner, and I really kind of push that brush down into the canvas. So let those bristles flex. As I go towards the right, I'm not going to go quite as high up into the sky, because what we end up with in the finished painting is we have height from the clouds on the left, and then we have height from the trees on the right. And that's what creates our balance in this painting. Rather than relying on dark shapes on both sides, we're just creating different shapes. And go all the way across the bottom. You can add as much white at the very bottom as you want. That sounded weird the way I said that, but I knew what I meant. Hopefully you guys got it. One of the things that I think is really important when we're doing clouds is this little bit I just put right here that goes off the edge of the canvas. Oftentimes people are afraid of the edge of the canvas when they're painting clouds. They feel like everything has to be contained on the canvas itself. And I think it's really important, especially when you're painting skies, that whatever you're painting extends off the canvas in some way. Because it's not like when you're looking out across the landscape, the clouds just stop all of a sudden because there's a perimeter or something. So the other thing we can do is I'm going to set this brush aside, and I'm going to switch now to my number 8, which is about 3/16 or so wide if you're using a different brush, and you could use about a number 6 or so, 6 or 8 round works for this as well. Any brush will work for any of this. So if you're using your own brushes at home, and I think sometimes one of the best things to do is use a different brush than you think you would, because I remember when we were in art school together that some of the challenges were using different brushes than I would normally expect, and you really learn how to be creative. One thing I didn't do too much was intentionally leave room for the moon. If you did or didn't, it doesn't really matter. You can put the moon, it doesn't have to be as big, but I do have room for it right here. I'm just going to remember that. But I'm just going to take a little bit with my number 8 here and just kind of start adding in a little bit more color. And again, I'm really thinking of, rather than brushing and doing brush strokes, I'm really just thinking of laying the color on top of the other paint, dabbing and tapping, and this is where a great texture without a lot of work. And we'll come back and we'll do a little bit more of the pure white later when we get our moon more dialed in and stuff like that. One of the things we can do at this point now too is I do feel like even though we're going to have trees and other things going on here, we need to treat this like there is not going to be. So we're going to pretend like we're just painting a sky. So I'm going to mix up a little bit more of my periwinkle here.
And clouds come really naturally to Paul.
They do.
Just like owls come really naturally to me.
Yeah.
So mine don't look like his.
No. And they never, I mean, nobody's paintings are ever going to look the same. And sometimes my paintings, like the one I'm working on right now, if I compare it to the original, doesn't look exactly the same yet. But it gets there. And the thing about this particular painting is when we do these clouds, they should be very subtle and soft. They're there, but they're not the focal point. But then when we add the contrast of the foreground, then they start to jump out a little bit more. So I've mixed up a little bit more of this periwinkle-ish color. And again, it's just blue, red, and a little bit of white. And I'm just going to start in this corner and just add some more of this a little bit darker. I'm looking at the shapes I've already established, and I'm thinking, okay, the moon's going to be over here, so I'm going to add a little bit of this darker color on the left-hand side of some of these shapes. We really got to think about where our light source is going to be, even though we haven't painted it yet. But just adding some depth of some shadows. Let me see if does that look all right on the monitor, or does it look a little glary?
Joanna says, I was just thinking that it was annoying how nice his clouds look. Yes, I was having the same thoughts.
They don't look that good. If I zoom in, they're really...
yeah, just shut up, Paul.
They're just messy blotches. I'm kind of subtly obsessed with clouds.
We should make you paint one blindfolded.
Oh, gosh. Actually, it might do better. Might do better. I'll paint them left-handed. I'll handicap myself. There we go. All right. All right, so really don't need to do a whole lot in here. Mostly what we're looking for is just some texture. And again, what we'll do later is once we get our moon in place and we get some of our trees in, we're going to come back in through here and we'll just, for lack of a better term, we'll just kind of kiss some of the edges with a little bit of some brighter highlight. So I think the one thing that's really nice about clouds, snow, and the moon is just the way they shimmer together. And I know when I've gone walking in the snow at night in the full moon, you have too. We've done it together, and it just gets this kind of mystical kind of shimmer.
Yep, that is true.
All right, so let's see what my next step is. Our next step is to hydrate. Make sure you stay hydrated. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to shape out our moon. And I'm just going to use my smallest brush for this. My moon in the original painting is a little bit wonky. I like to do the moon a little crisper. There's a couple different ways we could do this, but I think...
This looks like you were a little shaky when you painted it.
I think I rushed through the moon. Actually, let's do this the old-fashioned way.
Oh, what's that?
All right, I'm going to stick all of my brushes in the jar. I'm going to take my index finger.
Oh, that way. Okay.
Yeah, a little bit of white paint.
I'm going to go back to kindergarten, finger paint.
A little bit of white paint right on my index finger.
And you could do this and leave the edges real soft.
Yep. I had a little more paint on mine than Jenny did. But the nice thing about doing this technique is if you just swirl it and keep swirling, it kind of eventually finds round. Mostly.
Sometimes it can find oval, but...
Yeah. You can always touch it up later. Mine's a little bit oval, but it looks round from where I'm sitting. But
yours is an egg.
Oh, it's shaped like Adam Sandler's head. No, it looks... Okay.
Helen says she loves your clouds.
Oh,
Love those
you.
clouds. They are nice.
Okay, so when I look, Jenny, look at my moon. It is not egg-shaped. Look over here. Don't look at the monitor.
Oh.
It is not egg-shaped.
No, it's not.
No, for some reason the monitor is...
Stretches it out a little.
The camera's stretching it out. I think
Darn, I thought I found your weakness.
Because look, here's our round bottle. It looks egg-shaped too. So if you, and that's something, if you got a lid for one of these sitting around, you wanted to use that as a template.
Just trace your black
or just
lid, although it'd be a little bit bigger.
I mean, you could even like take the lid and just get white on there and use it like a stamp if you wanted to. That's called being resourceful and creative. Now Jenny's doing more of a mystical kind of. Let me grab yours.
No, they'll see my clouds.
That's all right. Your clouds are fine. See, she's got more of that purpley kind of, and I assume you're.
Well, I'm gonna put white over it.
She's gonna bring some. So she's got the kind of the glow going around it. All right. So what do we got next? I sometimes have to look at our little cheat sheet just to make sure if you guys are following along, that I'm not too far out of phase. Ooh, so that was my canvas. Okay. Back to our smallest brush. We can go ahead and add a little bit of highlight on some of these clouds. And what I'm going to look at is if the moon's coming across this way, it's going to hit a little bit on this one. And what I like to do is just put a little bit of paint on the edge and then wipe my brush off.
Are you using your smallest brush?
I am using the smallest brush, yep. And then just kind of smudge out away from that edge so it's not too crisp. Do a little bit up here.
Thank you, Joanna. She said my clouds look amazing.
They do. They're different than mine, and that's
They didn't
okay.
at first. I had to kind of paint over and redo some parts.
So I'm just giving this a little smooch of light. And so I'm always thinking about like, okay, this one, the moon's this way. I don't want to get too carried away because we don't want to get too defined in this part. But just adding some lighter patches. This is a great area like right here where you can kind of create a little bit of a shape of cloud. We don't want to get too defined with this because we don't want it to, if you get really defined with the clouds, then the viewer's expectations is that everything else is going to have that much detail, and we don't want to do that. Well, maybe some people.
So many things to think about.
It's not that much. It's not that much. People wouldn't know it was hard, Jenny, if you quit telling them.
Okay, I'm just going to admit, clouds are kind of hard for me. There's something I really want to learn how to paint really well, but it doesn't come super naturally and easily. It's a lot of manipulation and do-overs.
So this is where we get into the psyche of human beings.
Yes.
And I am not very...
I need to see this one.
I am not OCD in any way, shape, or form. And my painting is technique very much reflects that. And it's just really like clouds and other things like that. It's really just letting loose of that need to be precise. If that helps. I mean, we are doing a nice wintry season painting. Should I sing the song, Let It Go?
Yes, let's listen to that.
No, that's okay.
Let it go like G-O-G-H.
Yeah, exactly. And even just some of the little bits I'm doing over here, just a little spot.
Oh, thanks, guys.
They're giving you lots of encouragement.
Yeah, they like the purple on mine. I did put a little extra dark purple in mine just for contrast.
How dare you! I did all your paintings in purple last week. Now you're doing my painting in purple.
It was mainly just for me to have that contrast. Like, I wanted to be able to start seeing depth. So
Yeah.
I knew where to highlight.
Yeah. So I'm not going to do any more with the highlights on this, and I'll do the Jenny zoom and...
Yeah, kind of fuzzy.
Yep. And that's what it should look like. And basically what I did is...
No, I think that's the camera.
No, that's what it looks like. And what I do is I just put that little bit of white along the edge, then I fuzz out the backside, leave a little bit at the edge. It's kind of, I think somebody suggested an ocean beach painting.
Yeah, on our page today.
Yeah, and I think maybe we'll do that, not next month, but maybe for February.
We do have our next month's designs done already.
Yeah.
And we're pretty excited about those.
Yeah, and anyway, it's the same concept as when we do a wave, where we've got a little leading edge that's picking up the highlight, and then it kind of froths out into the background. Now this is going to get much more contrasty here coming up in just a second.
Wait, your painting for next month is here, right? It's
Yeah,
done?
should I go grab it while everybody gets caught up?
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Mine is still in its rough draft phase, which means it's at home, painted on canvas paper, which I highly recommend. If you like to do little practice things, you can buy a pad of canvas paper, and it's real thin, and it's got the texture like canvas. And I do that a lot when I am kind of coming up with a concept, but I'm not 100% sure how it will look on canvas. And they're inexpensive. Any art store will have a pad of canvas paper.
It's a great way to do a concept. Now, every morning I get up, and I'm sorry that camera bouncing is me moving the floor. Every morning I get up and I take our little 1-year-old Shiba Inu for a little jaunt through the park, and there's a little pond. Oh, it's...
Oh, yeah, you can't zoom.
We'll do a cinematic...
You can move these out of the way, maybe it would show.
No, it's all right.
Okay.
Little cinematic pan. So here's our little pond and our trees in the foreground. And what you guys are going to find, I really liked how this one turned out. This is really something that I don't do too much anymore with the big foreground trees, but I was like, this is kind of makes it neat. The original photo, actually, I should post it online, but it has a lot more stuff going on.
You know, those look like easy clouds.
Yeah, well, they're not really even clouds. They're just color. But what you guys are going to find is interesting with this painting is it's made with super rich turquoise, phthalo red, which is a really vibrant pink. And raw sienna, which looks kind of like mustard. And so it's just a kind of old school painting for us, I think. And I think it's a good intro into lights and reflections and things like that.
And I'll tell you I can tell you the subject of mine. It's an elephant. So we get to do
that's right, you're doing the elephant.
Very colorful elephant that's easy to draw out.
And it's not the whole body, it's just the head.
Yeah, just the
face
and a bit of the trunk and ear.
All right, so next thing we're going to do is we're going to start working our way across, starting on this left-hand side and working our way to the right, creating our tree line. And we're going to start.
Okay, let's do it.
We're going to start by using our number 8 brush. And I'm going to mix together, because I don't want to start with black. We are going to add black, but I don't want to start with black. I'm going to start with just blue and red. Mix up quite a bit here. It's probably about, if I were going to give ratios, probably about 2 parts blue to 1 part red. We definitely want this to be more on the...
grape soda?
Yeah, and actually, we're going to take this another notch.
Oh, wait. He's getting out the yellow. Oh, I gotta know what's going on here.
Right, so we're going to take a little bit of yellow.
The yellow pours out really fast.
Yeah, we don't need much. We don't need much. But a little yellow.
Oh my god.
All right, so I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and add this to our...
So we're gonna muck it up.
Yeah. Well, essentially what it does is it tones the purpleness down, and amazingly, it brings it really close to black. All right, so now...
Soft black.
Yeah. Soft black. That's exactly what we want. Don't need a lot on our brush, because essentially what we're going to do is we're going to start on this left-hand side. We're going to really keep our bristles vertical, so up and down. And I'm just going to start wiggling. I keep the brush on the canvas. And I'm starting just kind of doing these little, maybe about 1/2 inch to 3/4 inch wiggles.
Like the heart rate monitor thing?
Yep, a little bit. This can be, I'll zoom in a little bit here. Fancy zoom.
Yeah, that gets real blurry.
Yeah. Well, we don't have it on autofocus. We just have it on manual focus.
That's right.
But the main thing is you want to keep your brush on the canvas the whole time you're doing this wiggle move, because you want there to be little bits of choppiness all the way along. You don't want to have lines or gaps. You want it to be kind of continuous, an uneven. And we want that top edge to vary. So it can go a little, as we're working our way towards the right, we're going to start going a little taller. Maybe once in a while have a little bit more of a jagged, taller tree, because this is all we're really doing is creating trees. And we're just going to work our way all the way across. Those of you who are watching this video in the future and not painting long, you can fast forward a little bit if you want. Now the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to wipe my brush off, and this bottom edge I'm just going to smudge out.
So if you have a cloud you don't really like that's closer to the ground.
Yep, this is
a well-placed tree.
That's it, exactly. So when I get to about the middle of the canvas, we're getting close there. Yeah, this is just like going all the way across one of our regular size canvases. In portrait mode. Portrait configuration. I'm going to start right about the time I hit about the middle. This is where I'm going to start maybe getting a little taller with some of these trees. And again, I'm not worrying at this point about creating tree shapes, just these little jaggeds. These are more trees that are in the background. Again, maybe every so often kind of blur out this bottom. We'll come back in and put snow in. Now, as you get a little bit closer to the moon, like maybe this last third of the canvas or so, these can really start going taller. They can also come down a little further. Want to make sure you kind of look out for patterns. Don't want to, if you create one, you can always go back and
rough it up.
Rough it up a bit.
Get that HOA out of there.
Yeah.
We don't need that.
I also try to really ignore my cloud lines so that I'm not just mimicking them, and I'm maybe going to go a little lower right there. Actually, I'm going to go a little lower right under the moon. If you already went through there and you're taller, that's fine.
It would look good silhouetted over the moon, too.
Yeah, you can. That's actually one of my favorite techniques, too, is to actually have a little bit go up over the moon. But in this case, I kind of want the moon to feel like it's cutting through this, like almost like there's a little pathway or something that's running up through here. And I'm just going to keep going all the way across, going a little bit taller as we go further to the right. Intentional gaps are a good thing.
Oops.
Yours looks good. That's good.
I don't like my clouds. They're almost a little bit too detailed. But that's how I am. I'm just going to be self-judgy for a while.
Yep. I think sometimes like clouds are, the thing that's difficult with clouds is you kind of just got to just let them be. And we oftentimes want to keep working them.
Guilty.
Yeah. Now, I'm liking the way my new one's turning out, but by contrast, my old one, if I bring it back in, the original, I've got a much heavier cloud bank on this left-hand side than I did in the original.
Yours, that original, it reminds me of like a Peter Pan, like it needs a little flying ship coming through there.
There you go. But I'm not unhappy with how this one looks. They both look to me like they're the same scene, just the clouds have moved a little bit or something. And I remember when we were in learning how to paint with Leland, and we'd go. So our art, the college we went to, the art was right next to a nature preserve, and we would go out and there was a pond, and Leland would say everybody has to go sit around the pond and paint the island that's in the middle of the pond or something, or draw it. And we would all draw the exact same thing, but it was completely different perspectives.
Yeah, that was neat.
And that was kind of a cool thing to see all those different perspectives. All right, so we're going to keep trucking right along. Once you get all the way to the right-hand side, we're going to go ahead and we're going to start bringing some of the black paint into the equation. And so I'm going to go ahead and keep using this same size brush. I'm just going to take a little black and I'm just going to mix it in with what we were just using. These trees are a little different, and I guess I'll use my palette. Because what I do for these trees is, because I'm thinking of these trees that having some snow on them, and normally when we do trees, they're kind of a little bit more horizontal branches. These, I start at the top, and then I just kind of take the brush and just kind of...
But you're off camera, Paul.
Well, I'm coming down. There we go. And I just take the brush and just kind of give it some little wisps. Like so. And if you don't have too much paint on your brush, you can kind of get some neat little things going. And you could use your smaller brush. Number 6 would be good for this. But let's do this in practice. I think I'm going to do it with the number 6. I guess it's number 4, isn't it? Not number 6.
Yeah. It's
number 4. It's just a little bit smaller.
Yeah, number 4.
And just take a little bit of this. And a lot of times what I'll do is, rather than creating new trees, I'm just going to look at, like I've got one that's right here. And it's just almost, just get a little wider as we go. So rather than creating additional trees, I'm just taking some of the bigger ones that are already existing, making them a little bit bigger, making them a little bit bolder. And we're really going to take this color when we kind of get down into here, down into where the tree is grounded, and just kind of smudge this color out. There's one. Do another one right here. And this is a great way to, like, if you've kind of got a little bit of a pattern. So I've kind of got like a 1, 2, 3 that are all kind of the same size there. This is a great way to break that pattern up. So I'm just going to take this one. And give it the bigger tree treatment here. Smudge it out. Take a little bit of this color and kind of smudge it up into the base of these trees a bit here too. Don't worry about this getting muddy down in here, because we're going to come back in and paint the snow in. So anything that you got going on right in here, none of it's going to hurt. So I'm just taking a little bit of this darker purple, just kind of smudging it in along my edges. I'm going to go ahead and put an extra tree right here. This one's going to be, let's go a little taller. Might be the easiest fir trees I ever teach. And now I said that and it probably hurt somebody's feelings. I'm sorry.
Hurt mine.
These are not easy. Again, don't be afraid of the edge of the canvas. Let those trees go right off the edge. We'll add some snow on these later, and that's what we'll really get that nice fir tree texture with. So I think I'm going to do a couple just to the left of the moon. I'm not going to do these ones that are a little bit shorter that are below the moon. They're a little further away, so they're not going to be as dark. But I'm going to go ahead and do this one right here. Make it a little taller. And we have got a lot of new subscribers this month, so I just want to say welcome to all of you new subscribers. If you guys are new, what you don't realize is Jenny and I developed these paintings. We source the materials ourselves. We hand pack each box ourselves. Jenny designs all the stickers that go in the boxes and the coasters, and we have one person that comes in a couple days a week to help us with shipping, but aside from that,
Hey, don't discount Eric.
Eric has been an employee of ours with the Sip and Paint Studio for several years, but he works remotely. He lives down in San Diego now, or not San Diego, Palm Springs now, and
he does all of our graphic design that we need.
But when you message and you have questions, it's Jenny and me.
For now.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's great to see our reach. You know, we love putting the shipping labels on every month. We're like, oh, Wisconsin. Oh, we're going to Maryland. Oh, and we've made it out of the country for a few different countries.
So now
shipping is always really big for them, though, so I feel bad.
Yeah. On this left-hand side, I don't want to do too far. I don't want to go much. Kind of maybe get close to the midway point on the canvas. You might want to mix a little bit more of your red and blue into your black to soften it again.
What are you doing next?
So what I was saying is I don't want to go too far this way using the pure black. So I'm adding those other colors into a little bit of black.
Oh, Joanna wants to know how to get signed up on the email list. And I think you might have asked that the other day on our Facebook page. And I hollered out to Paul about it. And have you added a link yet?
I don't. If you go onto our homepage, usually a few seconds afterwards, a little window pops up. It's not technically a pop-up. But that's what I'll do is I'll add it into the footer maybe tonight when we get home.
Yeah, so it'll be at the bottom of the page. Join our email list.
Yeah.
He just needs to add that on there.
I think when you place an order, it gives you the. Oh, you know what? Actually, no, I take that back. When you place an order, I think it gives you the option to be on the mailing list. Anyway, so a little bit softer of this color again, and I'm just gonna maybe enhance one more tree here. Now these trees, I mean, if you look at them really close up, they really are very triangular, kind of fuzzy, but we're going to get that texture back by creating the by putting the snow on them. Now I'm going to take a little bit, I'm going to thin this down a little bit more with a little bit more red and blue, maybe a little bit more yellow just to soften it up. Because what I want to do is I want to have very little paint on the brush. And so I wipe it off, pick up a little bit of more, and just kind of right in along where the base of these trees is. I'm just going to take a little bit of this color and just kind of softly smudge it in. And what I like to do when I do this is I kind of come across horizontally, and then I'll come back with this brush and just kind of give it a little lift up into the trees a bit, so it feels like these shadows are kind of creeping up into the trees a bit. Kind of go all the way across here, just giving it. And what this also does is it helps ground these trees. Like, okay, they don't just like come out of nowhere.
Or like there's maybe shorter shrubs in front of them.
Yeah, it's mostly shadows in this case. But yeah, it could be shorter shrubs. It gives the idea that there's some depth to the woods. Yeah, now while we're using that same color, what we can do now too is I'm going to add, just take a little bit of that color from over here. I'm going to add just a little bit more blue and red and just a touch of white. Kind of give us a nice, like, grape bubblegum kind of color. And I'm going to look and I'm going to kind of create some shadows from some of these bigger trees.
Is it like, did you put black in there too, or yellow?
I'm just using the same color we've been mixing.
The yellow with blue and red.
And yeah, and a little bit of black.
If your grape bubblegum looks like that, that's not good.
All right. Anyway, it's just a darker purple, but the little bit of black or yellow, either way, keeps it from being too intense. And I'm going to start using this to create some shadows. So my moon's here. The light's going to come across this tree here. So what you do, this is the trick to shadows, is I'm going to look at it, I'm going to go, okay, it's going to go from there, it's going to hit the base of the tree, and it's going to continue at about that same angle. So I'm going to take this color.
Oh, we're doing the stretchy shadows behind the trees, right?
Below them, yeah. Now the next one, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to look at the line, going to go at about an angle like so. And this little basic understanding of how to cast these shadows is really important, because it's the difference between, like, I see a lot of people and they do shadows, but the moon's here, but they do all their shadows straight down. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't work. So I'm going to do the same thing, right from the middle of the moon to the base of this tree. Then I'm going to extend that line. A little bit of my color. Start just the same width as the tree. Same thing. It's always going to fan out. And we'll come back in with some snow, and this will kind of all pan out. You can do some of these. Obviously, when you get way off to the left here, it's going to be going almost horizontal, but you can do maybe some of these bigger trees. But that's really it. I mean, that's how you figure out those angles, and that's one of the things I think has been one of the hardest things to teach in the studio, is understanding how those shadows are going to lie in comparison to the light source and what is causing the shadow. Wow, we're 47 minutes into this painting. We could almost call it done at this point.
But we're not going to do
We're not going to.
This will be a little bit shorter video than normal because it's such a small canvas.
Yeah. I mean, like in this painting, like we did the heavy lifting with the big brush early. Mm-hmm. So the other things that we're going to start working on next is we're going to want to let all this to kind of dry a little bit more. And we're going to, this is one of the few paintings that I'm like, okay, gotta have stars. So this is going to be stars. I don't know if snow would be a good, might get confusing on this one because the clouds are low, not high. So.
Oh, you mean like snowflakes?
Yeah, like snowflakes in the sky. But we are going to do our stars. We are going to use our smallest brush. And I'm going to start by showing you the star of the show. This guy right here. It could be any star you want it to be. I'm going to show you how to do that. It's an optional one, but I think having that one that's just got that extra little, let me zoom. Again, we're out of focus.
The twinkle star.
The twinkle star is really a nice thing to do. So the way I do that, I'm going to take my brush, I'm going to make sure it's nice and clean and dry, and I'm going to pinch it to a point. I'm going to take the non-bristle side. I'm going to get myself a nice little dollop of paint, maybe tap it once or twice. Excuse me. And I don't want it to be dead center. I want it to be, like, I think right here is good. Give myself a nice little dot. I'm going to wipe the paint off the handle so I don't get myself. And then very lightly, almost barely touching the canvas at all, I'm going to take the bristles, the clean, dry bristles, and I'm just going to give it a little drag up, almost like a little flick down, a little flick each direction, each side. Now, if you wanted to get really fancy, you could do the corners too. Kind of depends on how much confidence you have in your little tiny brush. And then, since you've smudged all that color out, I'm going to go a little bigger. I'm going to make this one really impactful. This one caught some people's attention. All right. Then I'm going to refresh that dot right in the middle. Others kind of blur it, and that one fresh dot in the middle really gives it the impression that it's really bright. Now, could you do two? Sure. You could do as many as you want, honestly. It's up to you. It's your painting. I think one is a nice balance, but if you're going to do more, do two more so you've got three. That's kind of my philosophy on things like that. And this one little guy right here is causing me grief. There we go. Get all excited about this and you realize it's just a helicopter. But again, you can do 2 or 3, 4, whatever makes you happy. Now, as far as the other stars, I'm just going to use the backside of my bristle, backside of my brush. I actually think I used the bristles for mine, but what you want to be careful of when you're doing this is that you're not creating a pattern that looks obviously like somebody specifically placed them. So what I do to avoid that is I like to do a lot of them just very loosely, randomly, without much thought.
Paint some constellations.
Yeah, and then I'll find like some areas where I'll...
Just don't put them up on top of the clouds.
a little cluster. Don't do any on top of the moon. If you do, I mean, you could do this all over and pretend it's snowing. That wouldn't be completely out of place, but to me, I think what we're really trying to capture with this painting is that really cold, crisp, clear evening or night.
In winter. In the bleak midwinter.
Yeah. Gosh, this is going to be our last live video until after the new year.
I think so, unless
we just decide to go
time and
live for the heck of it.
Yeah, this is our busiest month of the year, definitely. December. A lot of people buying painting kits as gifts.
Yep.
For people, especially those people that you don't know who to buy for. It's like, well, you can paint yourself a picture.
Yeah, and if any of you have ordered the subscription for somebody this month, they won't get it until January, but if you go onto our website,
gobox.com,
at the top there's a submenu that says give a gift, and you'll find in that link there's an option that says gift note. You can print out a explanation that says to so-and-so from so-and-so. You fill that part out yourself, but it does say to and from, and then a description of what the subscription box is and what to expect and when they'll receive it. So if you need to give them something on that particular day, there is that option available for you. So now we need to get into doing some snow. Oh, actually, no. Yes, let's do that. I'm going to switch to my number 8. Give it a good rinse. It doesn't have to be pure white. I think that's something that a lot of times we have this preconceived notion that just because snow is white, it always has to be painted pure white. But in reality, at night, it's going to be more shades of blues and purples. And so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of mix up some of our little periwinkle color again. I lean towards blue on this. And what I mean by lean towards blue is make sure when you're mixing it, when you add your white to it, because we want this to be pretty light, but we want it to feel like it's, again, periwinkle, if you remember the old Crayola color. Leaning towards blue rather than feeling like it's pink. And if it starts feeling pink, what's going to happen is it's going to feel too warm for snow. So that's kind of a good color there. Let me see how it looks on the canvas. No, it's too dark still, so I'm going to add more white. I want this to be really light. There we go. And basically what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start very little paint. I had way too much on my brush. Still too much.
Yeah, start off with just a tiny bit and then...
Yeah, just the tiniest amount of paint on your brush. And what I'll do is I'll wipe all the paint off my brush too sometimes. And like these edges along here, just kind of softly kind of smudge them in together. Doesn't take very much at all. Kind of work some of this up in between our shadows. If you get little bits of your original base coat showing through in spots, that's okay. Totally fine. A little bit goes a long way. Another comment on there? Just
It's Daniel.
oh.
He missed out on another one.
Oh no! So there, I just got a little carried away and sloppy and got a little bit of paint up into my tree. So I just took my finger and just wiped that extra paint off. So that starts to feel a little bit more snowy field-like. That's kind of our base foundation. We got a little bit more to go yet. I'm going to take this same color now, and I'm going to dab a little bit of this, maybe a little darker. Just kind of create some craters on the moon.
Ah. He was working and notifications got turned off. That explains why we were wondering where you were.
Yeah, where you been, man? Now, the other thing I like to do with the moon is take the same brush, give it a fairly decent cleanup, get a little bit of white on the tip of the brush. I kind of tap the brush a little bit to splay out the bristles a little bit. And just kind of enhance some of this white.
Joanna wants to know what would happen if you had even more blue in that snow.
It would be totally fine.
Yeah.
It's really just a matter of having a foundation color that's appealing to your eye. That's the cop-out answer. You know, if it's,
yeah, a lot of my paintings have very blue snow. Less periwinkle, more blue.
Yeah, absolutely. It's totally fine. Especially because we're going to put some more bright white shimmer on top. The main thing is we just want it to be darker, and it is going to pick up some of the blues from the sky. So if it's a little bit on the bluer side, that's better than being on the red side for sure. We don't want to be in a lava field. Now I can't believe how like stretched out that looks. Something feels.
Yeah, it's probably just that monitor.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is. Because that's the monitors are a different aspect ratio than.
Darn those aspect ratios.
Might need to pick up a new monitor for ourselves for Christmas. They're not expensive. And really, after that, all we've got left to do is just our brighter white highlights in the snow. Now, if you wanted to take one of these trees, and I had done that in the original when I painted it, I think it was this tree here, just put some yellow lights on it like somebody went out in the woods and decorated a Christmas tree. Totally optional.
Yeah, I think the little fox is nearby. Is it on the ground over there?
No.
I maybe took him out. Maybe
Mine's there.
You got the decorated tree there.
And you can see this one right here, I did that where we put some little yellow dots. The nice thing is if you do that and don't love it, you just paint back over it. Oh, that's the other thing. We do have to put some snow on the trees. So to do the snow on the trees, I'm going to use my number 4 brush. I'm going to use that same color we used down here for the base color of our snow. I'm going to rinse, make sure my brush is nice and clean. And basically all we want to do with this is don't look at the branches you already have so much. You kind of do need to, but you want to kind of just dab going side to side, because really what you're going to see is the snow on the tree branches that are closest to us. This is almost a little too white, but that's okay. I'm not going to worry about it too much. You know, if it's too bright, you can always mix up a little darker color. But this is actually, like, for trees, I've always really liked how this technique of starting, especially winter trees, starting out with a dark tree and then doing a little lavendery kind of or bluish little tufts of snow really is a really simple way of creating a tree that looks really good and it's not too hard to do.
Helen says it's beautiful. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
It is looking real good.
You can go a little heavier on some of these trees that are further back because you're seeing more of the snow. I actually really like how that one I just did turned out. And the further away from us we get, the less we want. And when I say further away, I mean the smaller these trees are. You can throw some little hints, but you don't want to get too much because you start getting into too much detail on stuff that's far away. And again, when you put a lot of detail into stuff that's farther away, the eye gets tripped out when there's not more detail closer. So now for our snow in the foreground, what I'm going to suggest is using your smallest brush. And this is something that I'm a fan of, is using the length of the brush instead of just the tip of the brush to create fullness. So I'm just going to start a little bit of pure white, and I just use the side of the brush. I just go ahead and put paint right on the side, and then I can kind of use the tip of the brush to kind of work some of this paint up a little bit more up into the gaps. Maybe I'm going to use just the tip of the brush just to put some little shimmer marks. Just kind of enhance these little areas where we've got our shadows and then we're just adding some little highlight. I don't necessarily want to completely paint it white because I want a lot of the color to show through. And that's why I like using the side of the brush, because if I just slide it, it kind of breaks up a little bit and lets the texture of the canvas.
It's like how you highlight mountains too.
Yeah, the texture of the canvas kind of picks it up. Whereas if you use a bigger brush and push it down in, it goes on solid. And so really the best example I can give is really all we're doing is just sliding the brush across, just barely across the top of the canvas, and letting some of that paint scrape off the brush onto the canvas. So I've got a little mound right here, so I'm not going to highlight that too much. I'm going to highlight these areas in between. looks like another little mound over here. So I'm gonna add a little bit heavier white over here, and maybe you can create all kinds of textures and shapes. I think that's all I'm gonna do.
You're not gonna put a Yeti on it?
No. We talked about that. We thought about it. I've done some paintings in the past where I've actually did we have a good friend who owns a wine distribution company, and he has a contract. He does the Kroger equivalent stores up in Pacific Northwest. Fred Meyer is the name of them, but they're part of the Kroger company, and he had me do this big end cap painting that was the state of Oregon and all these little elements that were parts of the state of Oregon, and I snuck a little Bigfoot hiding behind a tree, and that was fun to do. He was really tiny. It was like if he was this whole canvas, it was like he was that one dot right there is all. But it was fun to.
That was collaborative. You and I both did it.
That's right. You did work on that with me, didn't you?
I think I did the Tulip Fields.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we have a huge tulip field thing in the spring here. It's a big deal.
Tulip Festival.
We do have a tulip festival. And I think we did hops and wine, and I think it wasn't one waterfall turned into wine and poured into the wine glass, and because it was a wine display. So
I feel like you need like the Grinch mountain.
If you know what, we've had so many people do paintings like this, and then all of a sudden they're like, that's no moon, and then next thing you know, it's the Death Star. You know, or mountains turn into Mount Doom from Lord of the Rings. And
Daniel says we should do a UFO abducting Bigfoot. I like that idea.
We could. Maybe that would actually be a good whole painting sometime. But anyway, so the last thing we're going to do on this painting, I think that's it.
You need to paint the sides, but you can do that.
Yeah, so paint the sides. I didn't choose to do this one as we went because of the way the images and stuff really wrap or touch the edges. It becomes very difficult to keep that rolling. And so I would recommend is kind of, usually I'll look at something like this, and I would probably go with, you know, kind of the deep, kind of this periwinkle-ish color on the sides, or just the
blue and red together would look good too.
Blue and red with that little bit of yellow. Go dark, maybe not black. Well, black would be fine too. And what you can do too is, if you want to be really careful, is you can always mask off the face of the canvas when you do it. But again, it's one of those things where it's like, if we paint the bottom, my instinct is to want to wrap the image around the bottom or the sides, and these are, because the canvases are so small, the folds are pretty bulky. So
and you've got room. You could paint stars around the outside.
You could do whatever you want. Snowflakes.
Continue the scene around the sides. I've done that a lot with these really deep canvases.
Mm-hmm. And actually, just scale. You know, like a medium, like blue and white together, make kind of like a powdery blue around the sides on this one would be good too. Just whatever you want to do. And the last thing I'm going to do though is I am going to take my brush and a little bit of white. I'm going to own up to this and say, hey, I did this. And I like to do, like I always, a lot of times when we do something like this, and I do a lot of landscapes, but I like to try to hide my signature in the highlights. Of course, if I were like one of our kid students sometimes, maybe I'd just do my name like all the way across.
Gigantic across the whole thing.
My name is Paul.
I am claiming this. I did this.
I did this.
I think it's cute when they do that.
It is cute when they do that. That used to be something when we did our weekly kids classes in the studio. Jenny would always have to remind them, now this, do your name, but it doesn't have to be across the whole canvas. So.
Yeah, Juliana, continue the painting across the sides and the top and bottom. I love that idea. You got an inch and a half of canvas to work with, just about inch and a quarter.
And that's shouldn't be too hard because like this side really you could just do trees across the side. Excuse me. Just keep doing trees. This side, less trees, more clouds. You've got all the colors. It's definitely something we've done in the past. But anyway, I'm all done. I'm going to kick my paint out of the way. And maybe we should see how Jenny's painting turned out. Are you done with yours?
Yeah.
All right, so Jenny's got a lot more purple. And Jenny's turned... Wow, Jenny, yours is
I
busy.
decorated my tree.
Did you?
It's busy.
Yeah. Well, you just always have a lot more going on when you paint your clouds.
Yeah, I don't really like them. They're kind of overpowering. Like, if I had the chance to do those over, I probably would.
Yeah, I like them though. It's
quite
just
a few more stars, but I like this little. I did a little pathway that goes back here.
Yeah, that looks good. I like that. And that's kind of one of the fun things that you can do and make it your own is do little things like that. And again, she added the yellow and red lights, or maybe it's yellow lights and red glass balls or something like that. And you did more of these bigger stars. You did some of the smudgy stars. Jenny is like, if there's a sky, there must be stars in it. Always.
I feel like for that size of canvas, yeah, I think I probably put too many stars and too many clouds.
Oh, no.
I like the bottom part a lot, and I like the moon. But I particularly like this area a lot here. Let's just saw the canvas in half.
No, everything you pointed to was that side. So I was like, see, she really liked that side of the canvas.
I do.
I like your clouds. I think they look a little bit more ominous, which...
Storm
a
coming.
little stormy, and sometimes that's a fun thing too. But anyway, so
here we go.
let's zoom back out and let's say goodnight to everybody. Wait, no?
Yeah.
You gotta zoom out, girl.
Oh, I am.
There we are. Ooh, here we are. We're back.
We're back and done with our paintings. Hopefully you guys are having fun and finishing up your paintings as well. You can continue working on them.
Mm-hmm.
This was a short one. We were painting for just like an hour and 10 minutes. So.
Now, I'm going to be completely candid here.
Okay.
We are probably never going to do this size of canvas again.
Yeah, this particular canvas size presented some challenges that we weren't quite aware of.
It wasn't so much the painting on them, but it was I would say probably close to a third of the canvases we got in had to be sent back.
Yeah, there were holes in the corners, and some of the canvas wasn't stretched around the back right.
And I can understand.
A lot of weird little issues with the frames, so yeah.
Yeah, and I understand because I've stretched canvases before, and when you're trying to pull something this tight on something this small, these corners, and I've actually noticed that these stretchers are formed different. The wood that's inside are called stretcher bars, but I don't know if you noticed, but they're beveled.
Oh, huh.
And on the regular canvases, they're not quite so aggressive. So while we enjoyed doing it this one time, and we will continue to offer this kit on our website, we probably aren't going to mix this one into the subscription again.
Yeah, it was fun. Fun for December.
Yeah. So, because now we got to contact the supplier and say, hey, we need credit for all these ones we got to send back.
Take them back.
Yeah. And where it was this corner right here, because of the way they have to stretch them, it was tearing the canvas on a lot of them, and
we don't like that.
So anyway, while it was a fun little break, we'll probably stick more to our regular 12x12s and 11x14s and some of those other types of things that we like to paint on.
We'll see.
And we'll see.
So if we don't see you guys before next year, have happy holidays and happy New Year. Thank you
other fun stuff.
Always for your support. We love you guys coming on here live. It's amazing.
Oh, and we've been getting
thank you, Helen. You love mine too. Thank you.
We have been getting a lot of great suggestions through our Facebook group.
Yeah, Facebook group is just called Go Box Art Crate. Yep. It's obviously on Facebook, but it's one that you have to request to join. So if you haven't done that yet, please do. We always people post their paintings, and I love it. I love seeing everybody's artwork, and I just love it.
I'm glad that people are supporting you on your painting, because I like your painting a lot too. I think you're the one who's picking on yourself too much.
I do that.
And that's normal for all of us. We're all going to look at our paintings and go, "Oh, I wish I was better at what I did." And that's something that You just keep working at it, and you'll get there.
Clouds are the bane of my existence.
Clouds are hard.
I just need to practice. I need to do some actual, just plain old cloud tutorials. You could teach one sometime.
I should.
Yeah, you should. You did a tree one once, so.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've done. It's been 2 years since I did that one.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're gonna let you guys go. We're gonna get out of here. We will see you soon.
Happy holidays!
Happy
Thank you
holiday.
again, and enjoy the rest of this month. Bye.
Bye.